Hi, everyone. Thanks and welcome back to the Ethereum Bangkok event. And we are going to have a very exciting panel. And first, before we start, I really would like to thank all of you guys for joining, Marco, Louis, and Aichen. I know there was a little bit of change at the last moment. And Louis, thanks a lot for waking up very early to join our panel. The moderator for this one is going to be Will Batcher. He's our head of security at Atato, and he's very well knowledgeable on layer 2. So we'll let him start the discussions, and thanks again for joining. Will, the floor is yours. I will let you manage.
Thank you so much, Maxime. And can everyone hear me okay? I haven't had the chance to do a check on this. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And this panel is Layer 2, what to expect in 2023. I'm just starting our clock so we can stay on track. My name is William Vasher, and I'm your panel host today from Atato. In a previous life, I had the privilege of contributing in a small way to one of the first attempts to scale Ethereum with plasma chains. The landscape now, I'm glad to say, has moved on a lot since then. And these days, warning, bad pun incoming, I'm very optimistic about rollups. Okay, sorry, last attempt at humor from me, no promises. Today, I'm excited and humbled to be able to say that we have some real life cutting edge layer 2 experts with us. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our panelists. Dr. Haichen Shen is co-founder at Scroll, and their engineering team lead also, a highly experienced technical leader. Haichen got his PhD from University of Washington and has worked on AI compilers at AWS. Scroll has recently announced news about their Scroll pre-alpha testnet, which we will hopefully learn more about today. Louis Goodman is ecosystem lead at Starkware, and a familiar name in the layer 2 landscape for those of us following along. Starkware launched Starknet Alpha on mainnet in November 2021, and efforts this year, as I understand them, are underway to further the decentralization of their sequencers and provers. Last, but certainly not least, Marco Monaco is Strategic Projects Director for Europe, Middle East, and Africa at ConsenSys. Marco has a long experience with crypto and blockchains and is currently focused 100% on scalability solutions. Marco makes up part of the core team of the ZK EVM testnet, which is soon, as I understand it, Marco, to be launched over at ConsenSys. We're lucky to have you all with us. Thank you. I'd like to jump right in by asking each of you to please introduce yourself and a brief summary of your project, starting with Haichen, please. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Will, for the introduction, and thank you for having me here. So I'm Haichen Shen. I'm co-founder at Scroll. So you already gave a quite thorough introduction about myself. So I just won't spend any time to introduce myself. So I just mostly talking about Scroll, what Scroll is building, and then what's like our goal for the layer 2s. So Scroll is building a native ZK EVM to scale Ethereum. So we're a ZK ROP to the Ethereum. Our unique thing about Scroll is that we're trying to achieve the EVM at bytecode level compatibility equivalence as the Ethereum, so that all of the smart contract that supposed to can be deployed on the Ethereum can be very smoothly deployed on the Scroll as well, and all of the user experience and developer experience will be very similar from the compared to the layer 1 Ethereum. And our goal is trying to say like to highly scale the Ethereum with higher transaction throughput and lower transaction cost, with 100% like the security inherited from the Ethereum, so that we don't want to sacrifice any user security, so that you guarantee the user security can be guaranteed by the zero knowledge proof protocols behind that. It's all like guaranteed by math, and also compared to like other optimistic ROPs, you can have a faster finality time. So the user can be, all of the user funds can be secure by the ZK validity proof.
Thank you, fascinating. And Louis, please introduce yourself a little and your project.
Sure. So I'm Louis. Thank you for the existing introduction about myself and Starkware. I will expand a tiny bit more. I've been in the crypto space for 7 years, at Starkware for 3.5 years. Prior to taking my current role as an ecosystem lead, I was in charge of, as a product manager of customers that you may know of, like Immutable, Soware, and Diversify. We changed now to Renofy. And for the last year, I've been in charge of building from scratch the Starknet ecosystem, which involved, obviously a lot of education on Cairo, Starks, and zero knowledge proof and scaling. Starkware is a company that was started in 2018 by Eli Bensasson, Michael Rabiev, Alessandro Chiesa, and Uri Colonni. We are experts in zero knowledge proof, specifically one protocol called Starks, and I've been using Stark to scale Ethereum since 2020 with, as I said, customers like Immutable, Soware, DYDX, and Renofy. So we launched Starknet in June 2021 for the first alpha. We launched mainnet in November 2021 as a pure alpha, and we are finally converging to getting out of alpha to more stable and fast system by Q1 2023. With the launch of two major releases, which are respectively, two major releases, which are the launch of Cairo 1, Cairo being the programming language used to write on Starknet, and the Regenesis, which is this replacement of all the legacy code that was inside the VM, inside the system from the alpha. And this will make Starknet a lot more stable in terms of feature development and the non-breaking change, and also a lot faster because we will enable us to speed up a lot of the sequencing capacity, which is currently the bottleneck of our system.
Got it. Thank you for that. And Marco, same question for you, please.
Hello, Will, and hello, all other colleagues on the call. Thank you very much for letting me joining you in this panel. I'm Marco. I'm part of BitsDev in ConsenSys, the BitsDev team, currently focusing 100% on this idea of the zkVM rollups. I'm part of the core team within ConsenSys that is working to make this zkVM testnet something happening really soon. So what's the project? The project is about the launch of a private alpha testnet that is powered by our zkVM implementation, and that will be open to whitelisted actors that are willing to test their application on this new type of scaling rollups. We are actually, with this technology, we are relying on zero knowledge proof to verify, to let the Ethereum layer 1 to verify the computational integrity of what we do on the layer 2. And we actually published very recently during Bogota event, the last version of the specs of this zkVM that actually gets almost 100% of coverage of the opcodes. And I will invite everyone on this call to have a review of that spec, because this is a very important step for a more formal audit that we need to have prior to go to use this technology in production going mainnet. The testnet will be launched very soon, in a matter of a couple of weeks, and it will be private. So we requested some users to sign up, and we got something like 150,000 of signups in less than 12 hours. So we had to shut down the form, but still we plan to reopen it very, very soon, because we are receiving a lot of requests and complaints from users that was not able to sign up during these 12 hours. So most probably we are going to reopen up the registration form very soon. Actually, we are going to whitelist progressively all the users, because we need to monitor the system. So we will add batch of user on a daily basis. And actually, we are also running discussion with top dApps and protocols, because we are inviting all of them to join the testnet to deploy their use cases. And the result and responses looks really promising for the time being for them. We are showing here a great level of product integration. In fact, users that will be whitelisted will be able to get an inferior RPC endpoint to access to the network very easily. They will be able to bridge their ETH from Gurley to the testnet. They will be able to deploy their use cases, the smart contract, or write new smart contract with Truffle, and they're going to be able to send tokens between their MetaMask wallets. So this is really a product integration within ConsenSys, and also we are also launching an ecosystem portal page where all dApps and protocol that actually will join us in this test, in deploying in this testnet in the short term or in the midterm, will be able to provide access to the use cases to testing users that want to test the use cases. So this actually is overall a summary of what we are doing.
Great, thank you, and congratulations on the success of your initial opening there. Okay, Haichen, question for you first, please. To help some members of our audience who may be more new to the topic than others, please would you explain what Layer 2 is and why it's important in Ethereum's road to scalability?
Yeah, okay. I can give a very brief introduction to the Layer 2s. So Layer 2, so I think people call the Layer 2 is an off-chain protocol that built on top of the Layer 1, which is the Ethereum. So in the Layer 2, so people can, the protocol can process the transactions with higher throughput, faster block time, and also lower cost off-chain. Because like it's all happening off-chain, not on the Layer 1s. And then theoretically, Layer 2 will submit some of the information to Layer 1 for the settlement. So there could be different types of the categories of the Layer 2s. So for example, Plasma is kind of like a side chain to the Layer 2. That only uploads the state root to the Layer 1s. And then another type of the Layer 2 is the rollups, including Optimus rollup and the ZK rollups. So the requirement for the rollup to be a rollup is that you need to submit all of the data that people can use those data to recover all of the information from the Layer 2s, like including the entire state tree for that. And also along with those data uploaded to Layer 1, you also need to submit a succinct proof to the Layer 1 that can be used to validate the correctness of the state transition from the old root to the new root. So the proof can be like different types. Like Optimus rollup can submit just an Optimus a proof that people can try to challenge, and then so they're waiting for a 7-day period of challenge time. If no one finds like the transaction data that roll up to the Layer 1 has any invalid transactions, then that can be called that batch of the transaction can be finalized and settled on the Layer 1s. And for the ZK rollup, you just have a succinct validity proof that can be verified on the Layer 1. So that usually happens within like an hour or even a shorter time. So that once the proof has been verified by a smart contract and deployed on the Layer 1, then all that batch of transactions can be validated and then finalized on the Layer 1s. So why is it important for the Layer 2 to the Ethereum's roadmap for the scalability? So I think because there's one key important is that Ethereum is very widely and geographically decentralized. So it has a lot of, especially like after the merge, so there's lots of the hundreds of thousands of the validator nodes. So due to this massive decentralization, so the theoretical upper bound of the transaction throughput is limited by those information that need to be propagated across different nodes. And also time, like you need to spend some time to reach the consensus of the next blocks. That's why like causing that the throughput of the Ethereum Layer 1 cannot be achieved ideal throughput that we want to have for Ethereum to process every transaction, like the daily payments or all of the DeFi applications that requirements, and then even like there's some new type of application, NFTs or games, those kind of things that couldn't be happen all on the Ethereums.
Wonderful.
So
thank
that's
you.
why.
Yeah, very.
Sorry.
Very, very good and thorough summary of that and some important extra details. Thank you so much. Louis, to flesh that out even further, how will Layer 2 still be relevant as Ethereum continues to upgrade itself?
So that's a fantastic question because it has been like a sort of like ongoing discussion between the Layer2 team and the core of the Ethereum developers. The current status quo, at least, is to claim that the path for scaling for ETH is L2s directly, and not L2s directly made by Ethereum Foundation or by being enshrining them into the protocol. So if you look at the blog post that defined the roadmap of ETH 2.0 from 2020 by Vitalik, which is called a roll-up-centric roadmap for L2s for scaling. The idea that L1 should somewhat not simplify completely, but at least not try to go in the execution path, but rather focus on two aspects, which is the consensus and the what we call data availability. So just let me give you a tiny of perspective when it comes to scaling. When you think usually of a blockchain has three functions in the way they behave. They provide consensus or like the storage of the current state of the system. They provide execution, and they provide the actual data of that database. So if you think blockchain is a distributed database, which is what it is, you have, let's agree on what is the current database. How do I execute things to modify it? And what is the data within the database? And so historically speaking, all of those three dimensions were secured by decentralization. The more decentralized you were, the more secure we were on all three dimensionality. The cool thing when it comes to, and speaking in this panel, with zero knowledge proof, it enables you to get this, execution, the trustless execution out of a cryptographic protocol, and no longer through decentralization. And so what the Ethereum roadmap now looks like, they still focus on what requires decentralization, which is the consensus layer and the data availability, the fact that I need to access the data. And so there is not, the two approaches are complementary. One is made to optimize for the second, and the second one is made to make the first one possible. And so if you look at the current roadmap of ETH 2.0, the path forward is towards proto-dunk sharding, all sort of optimization that will reduce the cost of data and will remove all limitation in the current state of rollup, which is currently the problem of rollup is the on-chain data cost, which makes it not subpar in terms of cost compared to other sidechain, let's say. And so in that path, like, there is not a really a problem or a position in the two paths.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think we've probably covered quite a lot of detail of what rollups are there already. Did you want to add anything, Marco?
Yeah, I mean, just what Luis and Dr. Aichen already said. I mean, it almost covered everything. I can try to wrap it up a bit. And
that's
maybe,
okay. We can move on if you like, and we can have more time for the meat of the question.
Whatever you prefer. I mean, I just want to highlight the fact that actually rollups are a way to scale up Ethereum mainnet, not sacrificing some of the main component like security and data availability and consensus and settlement layer of the Ethereum blockchain. And yeah, I want to highlight that there's a big difference between rollups and other scaling solutions, given by the fact that rollups are totally linked and integrated with the underlying layer one. So this actually brings with a cost, because it's much more costly to operate a rollup than a sidechain, for example. But it's also create a lot of advantages, because we can, inheriting the security of the layer one, we can, for example, implement trustless bridges or trustless message passing that will actually will not require to run some centralized bridge services that was on the news over the few past years. So most probably with rollups, we will not see any more this news about bridges that have been hacked or other type of issues because of the power that gives rollups that are very linked to the Ethereum blockchain or the underlying layer 1 where they are linked to.
Yes, thank you. And that's a very important thing to consider as well. And you mentioned cost there, of course. We have a saying that I'm sure all three of you are familiar with already in security, that is a security system is only as strong as its weakest link. And one of the weak links that can exist in layer 2, of course, is this centralization, decentralization issue. And this is highlighted quite well in the question of how to perform upgrades. If you have the ability to upgrade the system, then you might have a central point through which the traditional attack defense paradigm still exists. And so the question then, and we'll start please with you, Marco, what are your views on upgradability in general, and how does your project manage any of the risks that you find there?
Yeah, sure. That's a very important question and a very debated one as well. Upgradability, as usual, is a mandatory requirement for any type of software component, but there are many different ways to achieve upgradability. For the zkVM, we in ConsenSys, we really believe that zkVM in particular, being a very new technology and highly experimental technology, there will be bugs. We are almost sure that even after a very long audit process, we will find out some bugs. So upgradability, unfortunately, is a mandatory feature, at least for the short and the medium term. We cannot have ossified zkVM network anytime soon, unfortunately. In the short term, we are actually trying to put in place a double system, so a parallel system that is actually running the zero knowledge proof and computational integrity verification with zero knowledge proof with a sort of proof of authority or consensus mechanism that actually support this operation, so that the transaction will be finalized in both cases. So if we do have some issues on the verifier and the zero knowledge proof, the network can continue to exist even with degraded condition from trust assumption point of view. Let's say like this. We will have, of course, usual strategy in place, such as notification periods for upgrades. So there will be the time for anyone to review the updates, and people will be able to exit, because this is a mandatory requirement, in our opinion, for a layer 2, for any layer 2, that people should be able to force the exit even without the cooperation of the layer 2 operator. Governance also will provide a very important role here, will play a very important role. But the most important thing that I would love to address here is that given the complexity of zkVM, all of these mechanisms that we are trying to put in place, in our opinion, are not really enough. What we're trying to do by talking with colleagues and people that are also here today on the call, is trying to push for a new approach that we call multi-prover rollups. That actually it will involve multiple rollup provider, rollup operator. This will actually allow us to be less prone to bugs, because, for example, if there's a bug on a single implementation for our zkVM, for example, other individual implementation will most likely not have this issue. And so there will be the time to upgrade a single instance of the zkVM stack, and the network will continue to operate relying on the other stacks as well. So we really believe that this will be the end goal and the target that we want to achieve, and we are trying to do all our best to go in that direction.
Wonderful, thank you. Multi-prover is a fascinating solution to this problem. Louis, what's your perspective on this?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. So the question, of course, being upgradability, and
yeah, great.
Your thoughts in general, please, and also how you see the risks as it affects Starkware.
Of course. So upgradability is it's a hot topic within the Layer 2 space. You know, the problem that you always is conflict between the the purity, like the purity test, and what normal software engineering complex solution has to handle, right? So for purity tests, you're only on L2 if you can't upgrade. But the problem is that what the fuck happened if you have a bug? And so the purity would tell you they should have verified the code. And I'm like, that's not fucking true. How can you expect people to gain trust in a software that you can even correct if you know there is a bug? And so the upgradability is a major issue. It's a major issue, and the same way as if you want hard fork is a major issue in the context of blockchain. Like upgradability is equivalent of hard fork for an L2. And actually upgradability has more issue to it than hard fork has to it, because upgradability, the people don't understand this, but an L2 is actually a lot harder to build in some dimension than L1. And I'm going to explain which dimension. On an L1, if something goes wrong, I can roll back, I can hard fork, I can correct, I can do an unvalid state transition to name it on ETH, right? But on an L2, once the money is out, the money is out. And what people don't usually understand, and I always like to quote a friend of mine called Patrick McCory about what L2s are. L2s are just a very sophisticated bridge. And I'm going to quote the name of the paper he put out, because I think it's the most telling about when it comes to L2s, which is Validating Bridge as a Scaling Solution. So a source of knowledge, Patrick McCory from Infura, Validating Bridge as a scaling solution. Because this is exactly what it is. An L2 is just a super sophisticated bridge from a perspective of an L1. And so the main issue you have with upgradability outside of the changing the rule, which is like might be contrary to the ethos of blockchain, we know. Otherwise, we would always be Bitcoin and not ETH, right? If we just follow that path directly. The main issue you have is it actually provides a security issue. It is a major security issue because upgradability is, there was a hack happening literally like an hour ago where they they stole the deployer key from a project which I won't name because there is no point of shaming them, and replacing the proxy. I mean the instantiation of the proxy contract, and so the way we'll manage it right now, we are centralized trustless provider, but the next version, whenever we decentralize, would be a DAO governance with token involved, with some capacity probably similar to something like not the mechanism, basically what we will require on-chain governance, which is awful because on-chain governance sucks, but it's a necessity. So if you ask me, how do we see upgradability? Upgradability is a necessary evil of any L2, and anyone claiming the otherwise never wrote software in his lifetime.
Oh,
so
a bold claim, Louis. Thank you.
No, but no, or the system is so simple that it can be proven to be secure. But in the context of zkVM, in the context of Starknet, the real name of Starknet is Starknet OS. We're writing an operating system from scratch. It won't be bug-free. That won't happen. So if I can't upgrade software here, like what I'm going to do? I'm supposed to stop and let people take the money out? So no. So this is this is like there is no true Scotsman, and you at some point you need to take trade-offs when it comes to this kind of a hard question. So yeah. my answer is, I wish it wasn't possible, and I hope someone would come up with a super provable formal verification way of everything being perfect and that we bug-free forever. Until then, upgradability will be a thing happening in all L2.
Thank you for that. Hai Chen, we've saved the best opinion till last.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you. Like I think Marco and Luis already gave like a lot of great answers to the upgradability. So I think first I got quote a little bit from, I think Vitalik previously put a blog post on how what's the training wheels for the layer twos, and then I mean like there's one thing like on the second level of the security, which is having still upgradable smart contract on the layer ones, but but as it's controlled by a governance model by a different parties, like it could be like 6 out of 8 or like even higher number of the people can decide whether to upgrade, and then definitely also leaving some time before the upgradability. So I think the ultimate goal is definitely like not upgradable smart contract, a bridge contract on the layer ones, which means like you're bug free. But we all agree with that it will take a very long time to achieve that, because every ZK ROPS and then other ROPS, it's a very massive and complicated systems. I think it's need to be it takes a very long time, like even years, like to reach like to bug free. And then even though like maybe you are still doing like introducing more features or more optimizations to a layer 2, so that it can bring down further bring down the cost on the layer 2s. That means like we still in a very near future, we're still keeping like this upgradability, but like controlled by some governance models like to do that. But I think in order to make sure like the user are secured using the layer 2s, we need to go through repetitive iterations of auditings and then bug bounties on those existing systems to make sure like that we can mitigate all of the security loopholes, and then so that we can make sure that system is secure. And also internally in the Scroll, we're also building an internal security team so that we can make sure like we also review our code and then from like another fresh eyes internally, and then keep iterating, like auditing the code we wrote from the engineering team. Sometimes like if you wrote your code, then it's hard for yourself like to find any bugs inside your code. So definitely need like another team to go back and then to check out the code and then see if it follows all those specs, and then all of the constraint you written in the ZK circuits has enough and then sound to guarantee that there's all of the other possibilities attack invalid transaction cannot be proved by a ZK rollups, by a ZK proofs. So another thing, like I feel like the upgradability sometimes is still it's useful, because like the Ethereum is also going to be upgrading like the itself. For example, it has like introducing new forks and sometimes changing the opcodes like the semantics or introducing new semantics. So if we want to follow to be compatible with the Ethereum, so we definitely also need to upgrade your circuit, upgrade like the layer 2 protocols to be follow the things. And sometimes you can also introduce some new innovation like on the layer 2 first, and then see like how it works. So that I feel like it could be like a still upgradability. But I think we can further talk about like what's the upgradable like the part. Maybe like the bridge part can be not upgradable, like which guarantee, or what's the way like people can withdraw certain funds or like the relay message from layer 2 to layer 1. Those part can be maybe once it's finalized and it's secure, then you can make it not upgradable. But like for other like things, for example, how you verify a ZK validity proof, that's smart contract, the verified contract can be maybe still upgradable. So yeah, that's like the my point of view like of the upgradability.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I apologize everybody for encouraging briefer answers than I think are warranted by this. And it's amazing to me that we as a space have not yet perhaps identified the entire scope of the problem. And I think that's just a reflection of how quickly the innovation is moving, the fast pace of the work everyone is doing, which is great. Now, unfortunately, we're running shortly out of time. But for the last question, I want to ask each of you again, please, to kindly give us your expertise and opinion once more on where do you think the layer 2 landscape is going, and what is it going to bring for us in 2023? Louis, if we may start with you.
I was reading at the same time question on the Q&A, so I'm just make sure. Basically, what's coming next for layer 2s? It's for 2023. Okay, so I'm gonna start with mine. What's coming next? So first of all, I expect more protocol to come out of either stealth or trying out new design for the Layer2 space. I already thought like, and actually more precisely, I'm starting to see project coming up with new design at Layer 3s, at Layer 3s. So I haven't talked really about like, you know, the main advantage that you have as an L2 when you start building, thinking the scalability this way, that then you can go for fractal scaling, what Starkware we call literally fractal scaling. So what's going to come next in 23? So first of all, in the context of Starknet, we're getting out of alpha. Very excited about this. We are getting very great performance, and, you know, flowers everywhere and butterfly going out of computers. So out because how fast this thing is going to be. And all the new
promised
features.
Butterflies now, Louis. We've been promised.
This is a financial advice. There will be butterflies. So what I'm expecting in 2023, as I said, more system going in production, starting to be stable enough for no longer be toy, but be tools. And I'm already starting to see that, I say, in my own ecosystem with project, you know, raising significant of money to try new ideas, some things that are different. And that's actually what you should be looking after as a dev, as a builder right now, is what can you build differently on an L2 that you couldn't build on L1? And everyone focus on the cost, but cost is only one dimension. You have things that you can do on an L2 that don't exist anymore. You can do on L1. For instance, let me give you an example. On Starknet, there is 3 things that you get out of the box as a dev when you start building. You get cheap computation, cheap call data, and very important thing, account abstraction. The account abstraction is that unique to Starkware. For some reason, we just started out, we kind of the only one who implemented it. In the context, we don't have to support the legacy of backward compatibility of the EVM. And so all the innovation I've seen so far in the Starknet ecosystem come from using one, 2, or 3 of those dimensionality. And so there is just, you know, storage proofs is execution plus computation. Using Face ID and session keys for gaming is account abstraction. I'm seeing a lot of option trading system, a lot of perpetual system, because all of that come from one of those new abilities. So we are going to have the explosion of innovation coming from those 3 dimensions, at least for now, and probably more to come. So yeah, a lot of new projects and new capacity coming into blockchain.
Fantastic. Thank you for that very thorough answer, and so a couple of really exciting things in there as well. We're being joined by Maxime.
No, I think I made a mistake. I should have made this panel 1.5 hours because you guys have so much to share. And no, please, Marco and Aishan, share your views to finish, and we still have 3.
Let's go to who's next? Hi, Chen. Please, what would you like to add to that answer from Louis about 2023 landscape for Layer 2s?
Yeah, I think 2023 we will definitely. I think we will see ZK EVM in production. I think the ZK route. So I definitely will be. And then I think like in the context of the scroll, so we've been running the pre-alpha testnet for more than 3 months, and then we already have like more than 300,000 addresses on our testnet, and then also processing like the tens of thousands, I think like tens of thousands transactions per day. And then I think for us, like the targeting for the 2023, we're going for like a more production ready testnet. I think we're still like going to like a few steps for the testnet, and then targeting for a mainnet like the next year. Probably like we're also going through like some iteration also mainnet, so that because we want to test out things and then guarantee that the user security can be or everything can be fixed. So I think right now, like we also before end of this year, we're also going to do like a major upgrade for our current testnet, so that we can significantly improve our proving throughput. Although everything that can be processing like a faster and it has faster finality time for the transaction happens on the Layer 2s. But overall, I think like 2023, I would like expect like definitely there will be ZK EVM seen like that in production, so that people can test that out. But apart from that, I will see like some other Layer 2s. I think building like modifying a little bit on the EVM models, being like more innovative, like not following the entire ZK EVM model, sorry, not ZK EVM, the EVM models. Like there'll be some modifications and adding like the new things, like the new pre-compiles to enable certain applications. For example, I see like there's some games like that they'll be running like entirely on chain. Those will be seen, and also probably like some privacy features, layer 2s enabled in the 2023 for the layer 2s landscape.
Thank you, Haitin. Yeah, I'm particularly excited about some of the privacy innovations that we may see as well. Marco, what are your thoughts on this in 2023?
Yeah, we believe that the current activity on the layer 2 will even increase even more, and it's almost 2 months that, according to L2bits.com data, activity on the overall layer 2 actually is bigger than the activity on Ethereum mainnet. So I believe that this trend will continue over 2023, also because what I want to add on top of what Dr. Haitin and Luis already said is that 2023 most probably will be the year of Shanghai fork, and it's very highly probable that this fork will include a very important EIP, that is the 4844, that is actually an EIP that will benefit a lot all the rollups. So this will allow to reduce even more the operational costs for rollups. That means also lower transaction fees for the end user. That could mean unlocking new use cases like gaming, for example, or shifting additional traffic on the layer 2. So that will be really important for 2023. And the other thing that I want to build on top of what Luis said is that we will start to see even more a distinction between general purpose layer 2, like for example, the ZK testnet we're going to run, that is a very general purpose layer, and also upshades. So we will start to see a lot of 2 different approaches on rollups. It's very important because there are many use cases on the Ethereum layer 1 that proven their business case. So some of these use cases does not rely on composability, for example, or they comes with a different trust assumption. So maybe they will be see even more interesting than joining a general purpose layer 2, trying to get some shifting costs to do a full stack optimization, going over an app specific rollup or even a sovereign rollup. How do we want to call them? So we will see a lot of this distinction in the next year. We as ConsenSys will continue to support all of that. We are supporting many layer 2s within Fiora. We are starting to support also non-EVM layer 2s with snaps. For example, implementing the account abstraction features. So MetaMask will be able to work with this layer 2 as well. So we are really married with this idea of roll-up-centric scalability roadmap for Ethereum, and we are trying to support the whole ecosystem as much as we can.
Wonderful.
I'm sorry to kill you because, again, this panel should have been way longer. Really appreciate you guys actually joining and sharing your insights about layer 2. I know that there's been some change. You guys, some of you jumped in the last minute, so really appreciate you taking the time. And Louis as well, thanks again for waking up that early to join our community. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Marco. Thanks, Haitin, and congrats, Will. You're a very great host. If you guys, there is some questions in the chat. There are some guys asking some questions on the live stream as well. So we're going to compile them and reply to them a bit later. So sorry for that. So thanks again. We're going to be talking about another topic, GameFi, and we're going to switch in 2 minutes. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon. Thanks for the great questions from the audience too.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.